The thing I like about him is he keeps working. I mean, you know, there's somebody to be around. He not only keeps working, he's got a good head on his shoulder, and he can put his in the saddle the right way.
A good friend and a very, very popular actor who's done almost 300 roles over the years. You know his face. You don't know him for Westerns. You probably know him as Wilhelm, the boss of George on Seinfeld. Let's hear it for Richard Hurd.
To me, I've done a lot of, I'm an Easterner. I haven't done that many Westerns, you know, a handful. And I always wanted to do them, ever since I was a kid, but I spent 30 years in New York, and I came out here like in the late 70s. But I did catch a trickle, but I had an opportunity to be here like Noah Beery Jr. and people like that. I had an opportunity to be around people like that, Eastwood, people like that, where you could just sit and you could listen, and Western history, not just Western history, but the whole town, all the way back to Cecil B. DeMille, who you have to remember did The Squaw Man. And he did that as a silent film in 1913. And the actor that played the role, I think his name was Dustin Farnham.
Yes.
He offered him a piece of the picture because it was he, Goldfish, and Lasky that made this film. And he said, you know, the guy said, no, I want my $800. He's an actor. Well, when that film went out, you got to remember 1913, it made $200,000. $200,000. So, you know, the actor should have taken the bucks. Anyway, Cecil B. DeMille is a great contributor to the American Western as well.
Well, you know, everybody probably knows Richard from Wilhelm, the boss of George on Seinfeld.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you don't know him from that, you might know him from Star Trek.
Yeah.
Or you might know him from T.J. Hooker with Bill Shatner.
With Bill Shatner, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, Bill Shatner.
What was he like to work with?
He gave 120%, but he could really be, I won't tell you, he's a good actor.
You're among friends.
I'm among friends. Yeah. We had some wonderful people who guested on that show. And you got, I think, doesn't Bill raise quarter horses?
Yeah, well, it's not quarter horses.
What is it?
Arabian saddlebreds. American
Well, he's
saddlebred.
a hell of a good rider. We've gotten back together recently again, and he's a hell of a nice guy. And the thing I like about him is he keeps working. I mean, you know, there's somebody to be around. He not only keeps working, he's got a good head on his shoulder, and he can put his ass in the saddle the right way.
Well, you also did a comedy Western that, when it first came on Fox, the ratings were big, and they thought, wow, we have a hit.
Yeah.
And it was The Adventures of Briscoe County
Briscoe
Jr.
County, yeah.
And you played the president.
I played President Grover Cleveland on that. That was so great. Who was that? Terry Bradshaw. Terry Bradshaw was on one of the episodes I did, and he always kept staring at me. He was just kind of always staring at me, you know, he just stared at me. And he came over and he said, good to meet you. He said, you remind me, I know who you are, but you remind me of somebody so much. I said, well, you know, I played Chuck Noll in Fighting Back, the Rocky Bleier story. You know, Terry played for him. He said, no wonder, I don't think I'm going to like you. He had a few wrinkles right there. But, you know, I have to tell you, that particular show, it was so much fun, and I honest to gosh believed that, because I was going to be in the following season as well, that they were going to pick that up. I thought that was an ace in the hole, Ron.
The ratings dropped pretty fast. It could have been your big break, Richard.
It could. Well, maybe I would have played another president. My big break. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, your big break is getting up in the morning, having a cup of coffee, and loving the woman you're with. That's your big break.
Oh, all right.
I have to tell a story that actually is kind of really a Christmassy story, and it was quite unusual for me. There was a film called, it was originally called Wolf Lake, and later it became The Honor Guard. It was directed by Burt Kennedy, and I wasn't even up for it. They didn't send in a reel, I wasn't up for it or anything, and Burt was watching all of these demo tapes from actors and so forth and so on, and I happened to be in one of them. And the actors always know better to cut everything down so that you're the primary character on your demo reel. So I had a bit of this little scene, and Bert said to the casting director, "Who's that guy? Who's that guy? That's the guy I want to see." So all of a sudden I get this call. I go into Bert Kennedy. He's doing this film with Rod Steiger. He's doing it up on a 9,000-foot mountain in the state of Chihuahua in a little town called Creel with the Tarahumara Indians, and half of them live in caves. There they are out there in the caves. We did the film. It was a wonderful experience for me. So all of a sudden I get this call from the agent that said, "Well, Bert Kennedy called. He wants to talk to you." He says, "I'm doing this Western movie called Kate Bliss and the Ticker Tape Kid." I said, "Gee, that's one of them." He says, "You want to wear a big hat?" I said, "Oh, yeah, I'd love to." And boy, I mean, my heroes are there. Harry Morgan, Buck Taylor, Gene Evans, and we had Suzanne Plachette, Tony Randall, and David Huddleston. Stuff like it was just fabulous. And Bert, I have to tell you, I used to go visit him quite a bit, and there was something about Bert came from a background as a writer and an actor and a very strong military career. But he had the sense, the same thing that Kevin Spacey does, that Jack Lemmon once told him. And Jack Lemmon says, "Well, once you get to a certain level, boy," he says, "send the elevator back down. Send the elevator back down." And that meant once you've tasted a little bit, bring somebody else up. Bring them up, put them in front of a camera, give them a job. And that's what this town used to be. If you turned in a good job for somebody, bingo, you got that job. And you had an opportunity, and they're still like Eastwood. Eastwood used the same people over for 20, 30 years. There are a handful of these people left, and God bless Bert Kennedy for looking after me all those days that he did. Wherever you are, my friend, I know you're up there in a saddle and smiling down on all of us today, and you can't have a hamburger.
Bert Kennedy was one of the best comedic Western directors ever. He did this little film behind Richard here, Support Your Local Sheriff.
Oh, yeah.
That was wonderful. And a lot of the same guys that Bert used in that were in Kate Bliss and the Ticker Tape Kid. And we know it's a comedy.
It is a comedy. It's
because Tony Randall played the bad guy.
Yeah, he plays the bad guy. And I met a wonderful guy, Jerry Herring, who invited me to his Christmas Eve party. He said, "You're going to be there. We've been having this party for 40 years, and you are coming." He was a Texas guy. So I ended up being in Kate Bliss and the Ticker Tape Kid. This is all going to go somewhere, believe me. It's all going somewhere.
Out the door.
Jerry Herring was also the guy that was in the film with me up on top of that mountain was in it. That was 36 years ago. 36 years ago, I went to that party, and I met this great gal from Houston, Texas, and the party was on Christmas Eve, and we're celebrating 36 years of going to that party Christmas Eve. And we're married 34 years.
Richard is a painter as well. He paints very eclectic
yes, to say the least.
Stuff that he uses tools instead of paintbrushes for most of it.
Well, yeah, I work with a lot of rust. I spend a lot of time in junkyards. I love being in junkyards, and I got my old nippers there to cut up the rust. And as a matter of fact, I got picked up recently horseshoes and a bunch of old stirrups. And I'm going to surprise you with what I'm going to do with those, Rob. And I promise not to splash on your brand new AstroTurf.
Oh. Richard is in our painting group, and in my front yard, I keep easels at home, and we've been doing this for 25, 30 years now. And every Saturday morning we paint. But we took the grass up and put AstroTurf.
Mistake.
And I tell everybody to treat it like a living room carpet.
Oh, jeez.
Because then we lay out a tarp.
Yeah.
Because if you put paint on it and somebody says, well, if I drop my chartreuse and purple and orange painting on it face down, I can always just paint it green. Well, then you have all these splotches and green things. I said, think of it as a living room carpet. And Richard brings tools.
Bring tools, but you know what I would have done with that piece of AstroTurf? I would have cut it out, framed it, and sold it. That's what right?
And you would.
And I would, too. I would sell it.
A big hand for Richard.
Thank you very much. Have a great holiday season.
Thank you, Carl.
Thanks.